Or
That's
just
a cool
like,
way to wear a microphone.
ow. Meow.
Welcome back to the Green Soapbox.
That's the one.
You suck.
We're here bocking it out. It's a singular. It's a singular. It's not a box. It's a bok. That's just when you have one box.
True.
Anyway, we're running it back. All right. Welcome back to the Green Soapbox. This is episode 2, part 2. We're joined now with Crystal. Crystal is new to this conversation.
Hello.
Just to recap a little bit, the last part of this episode, we were talking about, are tattoo competitions still relevant to the tattoo industry? Let's recap, Crystal, a little bit on that conversation. What were the main points that we came up with?
I think some of the points we came up with were like, I think we agreed that they weren't necessary, but they have a place for sure. Definitely, it could be monetary value to those.
Yeah. So winning a competition kind of places you in the market,
right?
And where you're at amongst your peers.
More validation, for the artist.
For sure. Yeah.
And then
validation.
The last thing I think we talked about was just the competition factor of it, just seeing where you place yourself amongst those people.
Yeah. So
the artists.
If competitions have a place in the tattoo industry, the question I had last episode was, should we keep gatekeeping in the industry? What about the new people that are coming into the industry that want to enter these competitions?
I say fuck them.
3 to 6.
They're going into the industry for the wrong reason.
You don't know.
What if that's just you out there, bro?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
What if it's you out there, some thirsty kid from the Bronx, or where are you from? From Queens, New York, from the Queens, the Queenland.
I didn't get into tattooing to be to be a social media influencer.
So you're against social media influencers? So you're gonna gatekeep the social media influencers?
No.
Fuck
I'm
'em.
just saying that when I started tattooing, nobody got into tattooing because they wanted to be famous. There was no famous tattooers. No one gave a fuck about that. And now people are like, well, I can be a tattooer and I'm going to be just as famous as enter anyone. And I feel like that's a dumbass reason to get into
So we
tattooing.
should stop those people.
Well, we can't. It doesn't matter. We're not stopping those people.
If you could, would you choose to stop them? And how would you do so?
Well, I don't.
And do you think that stopping them is going to benefit the industry?
I don't know. I mean, stopping somebody to get into tattooing just because they want to be rich and famous, like that's fucking stupid. If you want to be rich and famous, open OnlyFans.
You
I
think
don't know if
people
that
are
makes
really
you rich
getting
and
in the industry
famous.
to be famous?
Absolutely.
I disagree.
I disagree wholly.
Yeah,
Yeah?
I disagree. I think
I don't think you're
man.
wrong. I don't think it's like. I think that's probably like a small percentage.
personally, when I joined the tattoo industry, I was looking for an alternate way to have an art be sort of my main source of living, right? An art form. So I joined in for the love of creating something, for the passion of creating something, and
The passion of the Christ.
the passion of the creation.
You suck.
All right, but now we're in the era of like information and everything being online. So would you not say gatekeeping is out the door?
Yeah,
Or,
that's just dead.
Well, I think that we can gatekeep in other ways. Obviously, the information's out there, but
What are you referring to when you say that, though?
We could have tattoo
exactly can we
competitions,
gatekeep?
perhaps that are, not judged by 9-year-olds.
I mean, is that gatekeeping or just lack of stupidity?
I mean, I think it was a lot of stupidity to put a 9-year-old as a
that's
judge
what
of a
I'm
tattoo.
saying.
You can't even
Not
get a tattoo
doing
at
that.
9 years old. You got to wait a whole. That's
Not
like
with that attitude.
What if that 9-year-old been looking at dinosaurs since he was like 3 years old?
Yeah,
He really know his shit.
He was that
Yeah.
9-year-old from Jurassic Park.
He know his shit.
Right.
You're like, oh, that's a dope ass dinosaur. He's better than the Maxwell portrait. He could. It's possible.
I mean, maybe he's a paleontologist. Maybe he did the research. I don't know, but
It's a
I do think
Caterpillosaurus.
that the Caterpillosaurus, the Tattoosaurus, Tattoo Rex.
Boo.
But yeah, I mean, I think that there should be if if people are winning competitions and they're getting something that's benefiting them, maybe there should be some gatekeeping. And in the case of tattooing, that was just me getting my shit off. But the 9-year-old who judged this person, who chose this tattoo, and again, Michael Perry did a phenomenal job on that tattoo. But had it been anybody else, that 9-year-old favored over Michael Perry, then all of a sudden you got somebody that's, again, maybe not as qualified, winning these awards, getting this qualification. Should we allow that as tattoo artists? As somebody to come into the industry and just start polluting the market with bad tattoos? How do you even gatekeep in a modern age?
And that's kind of what I was going to be asking was like, how do you avoid that to begin with? I mean, how do we avoid that as artists?
I think having a competition that allows for mediocrity needs to be a little more. There needs to be a stronger.
You about to shit your pants?
Yeah, what's going on over here?
This man's drunk as hell.
Sorry, this is just so. You ever know when white people have these sharp ass asses?
That was a hard ass you went out.
Wait, I didn't even catch that.
It was a hard ass. He was like,
I'm like that.
samurai sword.
Hey, put that sword away. Yeah, put that sword away.
It's not my fault.
Sheath that sword.
I can't help it. Was it that bad?
Oh, it was so sharp as hell, boy.
Anyway,
I'm sorry. I can't.
She's gonna start
avoid it.
Sorry,
Man.
I couldn't hold
just
it
say it
in.
with an SH. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, see, it's not as sharp.
I can't help it. It's how I
Anyway,
talk.
Sorry. All right,
Well,
you can cut that whole
Angel,
part.
you suck.
Going back to
You
what we were talking about before. Hold up. Get your shit together.
I
No.
see white people.
Get your poop in the group.
Damn, that's new. I've never heard that before. Okay, all right.
Anyways, we can't gatekeep anymore. That shit's dead.
Yes, we can.
I
We
got
could
a hot
gatekeep
take.
in other ways.
How
No,
so?
we could
Bullying?
gatekeep.
Internet
We could raise the assessment. We could fucking raise the evaluation that they have for.
You know what they're gonna say?
Tattoo
They're gonna say, be like,
competitions.
"Fuck your evaluation. I don't give a fuck about that."
But everybody
Well,
in the
why
industry
There's a
would
bunch
they?
of pirates, bro. I tattooed out of my house for 5.5 years. You think I gave a fuck about what anybody else was doing?
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't.
But
give
you
a
shouldn't
fuck.
have done that.
I know I shouldn't have done that.
You
but
don't like those people that are doing that now.
No,
We
I
can
don't.
gatekeep it.
But
I got a hot
But
take.
I'm saying, all right, go ahead.
So
go
we
ahead.
could make it harder to get a fucking business
No,
license.
I got a hot take. We can gatekeeping is still existing. We're just looking at it a different way. I think you gatekeep with likes and follows. I mean, not likes, but follows. Right?
Okay, yeah, validation.
Right, because it's like, okay, you can think you're doing something, but then those artists that you look up to, if they're not following you back, I feel like it makes you feel a certain type
But
of
you
way.
can buy follows.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
No.
Some it's
It's
artist
validation
that's
from
following
your peers.
you, right? And you don't follow them back, but they look up to you, right? I feel like that's a form of gatekeeping, where it's like, or it can be a new form of gatekeeping, right?
So you just said if somebody looks up to you and they follow you, you don't follow back as a protest to them.
Not as a protest, but I feel like
Only if they do shitty work.
I know. Me personally, I feel like when people do that to me, it's like they don't either look. They haven't
hurts you?
looked
That
up-
hurts your feelings?
It don't hurt my feelings, but I do feel like, okay, they not valuing my work at a certain tier, or they don't know me personally, right?
Right.
So they don't value my work at a certain tier to kind of be like, I want to see what he's doing, right? Which makes me like, okay, I need to work harder to get that notice.
You think
from
they're doing
them.
that intentionally?
100%.
You think they're gatekeeping that from you? That follow?
I don't think they're doing it thinking that they're gatekeeping, but I think is it
That is a
intentional
form
thing?
of gatekeeping then, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I guess I could agree with that. Yeah. It could be a form of gatekeeping. I guess more so what I'm speaking of is like intentional gatekeeping, keeping the information or keeping the access to that.
But
Not
that's already
necessarily the
open.
information,
It's
right?
not gonna
But
happen.
keeping
Yeah.
the access to the market, to
That's already open.
even
though.
tattoo competitions, like to have an evaluated assessment of a tattoo versus like anybody can enter, right? You gotta
Well, how do they do
qualify
that?
to enter a
Well,
tattoo
how do you
competition.
qualify?
You do like a preliminary fucking qualification. I don't know, and it's
What does that
specifically
look- what
talking
does that
about
look like?
in a Villain Arts tattoo competition.
They don't
you-
care. That they just want the $10.
right?
That's
and that's
what I'm
fucked
saying.
up. That's fucked up.
That's
Villain
not
Arts, you
gonna
guys are out here
change.
kind
That's
of doing things a
business.
little.
Why are you looking at
Wait,
me like that?
what did you say?
I said that's not going to change. That's business.
I'm
Their
not
goal
asking
is
for that
make
to
money.
change. I'm saying if we can implement a source of gatekeeping that allows or that doesn't allow for people to access certain areas of the market, i.e., winning tattoo competitions. Because in the previous episode, we talked about tattoo competitions sort of giving you access to higher tiers of the market, right? You could charge more. This is a thing I did. This is my award.
I think what they should do, which they won't do, because money. I think what they should do is either if you have won the competition before, you can re-enter. Or if you have a certain amount of experience, you can re-enter.
Or maybe they should have a tier on top of the one.
I don't think you can tier it too much because I think that's going to be kind of like funny. But I think you can kind of like regulate it. Okay, if you already won, you're locked in for like the next 5 years or some shit like that.
So you could just enter.
Or if you have like a certain amount of experience.
How do you win that first one then? How do you like?
You got a tour.
You got to be a part of that. If you haven't won already, then you have to have a level of experience. You have to be in the like tattooing for like 4 or 5 years before you enter.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Some pre-qualifications, kind of what I was saying.
Yeah, I feel like you can do that, but I think anything else would be kind of hard to kind of like maintain. You know?
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, Crystal, as the newest tattooer in the group, right?
Hi.
Oh, well, actually, no, Tito's the newest tattooer.
I was about to say, hold on.
You guys are both the newer tattooers of the group.
We suck.
Right? How would you feel if
The worst.
sort of that information was harder to get?
What information specifically?
Anything. Maybe like having a pre-qualification for validation via a tattoo award, or a qualification, or like, let's say the artist that you admire doesn't follow you back.
I mean, I know I ain't shit, so
Oh, okay. Well, then
that doesn't really affect me. But
it defeats everything.
I still consider myself a student in the
Yeah.
game. Like, I'm still learning and still, growing as a tattoo artist and stuff. So, like, yeah, I mean,
I don't think we fall into that category of the people that are just going for fame, apparently.
or when
Well, you guys
Or
obviously
to win
aren't-
competitions.
Yeah, you guys
like,
obviously aren't in it to win competitions. This is clearly something that you guys are passionate about.
Yeah, of
Especially,
course.
I mean, Tito,
For sure.
coming from a completely different line of work.
Yeah.
Like you did barbering, and you were a solid barber. You still are, like, that's your main source of work, is it not?
Yeah, it still is. I still haven't transitioned into being a full-time tattoo artist, I feel like, because I still cut hair a few days of the week.
Do you feel as though maybe it's a little unfair that you're having a harder time transitioning into? Do you feel like maybe there's a sort of steps in the way that are keeping you from that, or do you feel like
it's definitely tough, because I grew like a friendship and with my clients, and it's hard to let go of.
like
tattooing.
what are the things that kind of hold you back from being where you want to be as a tattooer? And I guess I pose the same question to Crystal too. Mm-hmm. Is that something that's beyond your control, sort of a gatekeeping element that is inhibiting you from reaching a certain level?
No, because I always feel like there's areas where I can improve and continue to do more things that I know that I'm not necessarily doing. So that's on me. I always feel like there's something that can be done that I'm not doing that I can improve on. So it's not necessarily the industry that I'm blaming it on. It's myself. And I know a lot of people.
So you're gatekeeping yourself.
I'm gatekeeping myself.
Okay.
Oh,
You just Uno reversed it. I guess there's not much I could say
Are
there.
you really gatekeeping yourself when you're surrounded by tattoo artists?
Not at
and
all.
working in a
No, I feel like I'm
tattoo
learning every
studio?
day just by being in
So
the
the-
environment and
that's what
talking
I
to the
feel.
people
The
that I
information
do.
here is not gatekept, right? Anything,
Not at
the
all,
expertise
no.
that we have as artists, TJ 17 years, Angel's 15 years,
Yeah.
I'm 10, 11 years.
There's definitely stuff that I'm learning from you guys every day
Yeah.
that I come, and.
But I also wouldn't blame you guys if I was just doing what I was doing, not asking questions, just going about
What
my
if
day.
you were asking questions and we were like, nah, fuck you. You don't deserve that
well,
information.
then that's a little different.
How would you feel about that?
I mean, I get it to a point.
I would question it. Like,
I'd be like,
should I be
okay.
here then?
Yeah.
You know?
Because why is that a thing? Why is gatekeeping a thing? Because at the end of the day, I mean,
I
if
think
you're
gatekeeping-
confident in your own work as an artist,
Well, you could be
and-
confident in shitty work.
you can be. I'm saying you as somebody who has experience, who has the status or whatever, and you're.
Status.
And you're keeping that information from a tattooer that's less experienced or what have you. If you're confident in your own work, why does giving that person that information bother you? Because if you feel like they're not a threat to you,
I don't think, for me, when I say, hey, maybe we should implement gatekeeping, I'm only halfway believing that, right? Or halfway in that opinion.
Yeah.
I believe that we should pave the way for other tattooers to have an avenue of growth and have an avenue of information, right? But I don't think that everybody deserves that information. If I go, hey, you're not good enough to get the information that I have as an artist, then, I mean, that would be up to me to decide, really. And I think that ultimately what I want to do is stop the industry from having bad tattoos. And to stop the industry from having bad tattoos, you need to limit on who can become a tattoo artist.
But wouldn't also giving that information potentially also help that? Because if
What
you're
information?
say there's something that you have that's like, oh my God, gold to this person, it completely changes their tattoos, completely changes their work entirely and how they do things, right? What if you giving that information completely switches around their work, and you could have prevented that person doing bad tattoos because of information that you gave them, but you gate kept it because you didn't think they were good enough? Isn't that kind of going against what?
I do think that there are artists out there that aren't really willing to learn. And again, going back to being confident in shitty work, you know, there's a lot of artists out there that we should take the paintbrush away from them.
Like they're just stuck in their ways, like, oh, I'm good enough and this is it. And
I mean, they can be stuck in their ways. Maybe it's an egotistical thing. Maybe it's...
I don't think we should take the paintbrush away from anyone. That's sort of the beautiful thing about tattooing.
Sexy as hell.
I swear, right? That was you came in out the cut. I was watching you two. You were staring off a little bit. You were brewing that one. That was good.
Yeah, you can't take the away. That's the best thing about tattooing.
So if you can't take away,
we empower ourselves.
If you can't take away the paintbrush, then in our last episode we were talking about how art competitions they have a place, right? So if you are at the lowest end of that competition,
you can still succeed. That's sort of the cool thing about it. You can be the person in last place and do a bogus ass lion back piece and still make $5,000 a day.
Oh, there he goes.
Oh yeah, which lion back piece? Oh, you talking about that one that looked like the Cowardly Lion from The Wizard of Oz? I seen that on Instagram. What was it?
Anyways, you know what I'm talking about.
Skinny the human, skinny Hugh. What was it?
Anyways, I'm just saying that, you can empower yourself, and that's the beautiful thing about tattooing. That's the best part about tattooing, is that no one can tell you that you ain't shit. As long as you can convince the person paying you that you are the shit, nothing else matters.
I think the gatekeeping comes into play. The gatekeeping that I want to see back, and this is like, because I had problems getting into the industry, right? I think the gatekeeping that I want to see is just like, it's just not so. I feel like it is so easy to get into tattooing that it opens up the door for all that other shit to happen. Like, people don't value it the same way. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and that's an atrocity in itself. In person, on the internet, wherever I see tattoos, I want them to be good.
Well, I think you can't. I think just because you're gatekeeper don't mean the tattoos are going to be good, right? Because somebody might max out, and then when they max out, then what?
Well, at that point, you hit them with the rubric.
True.
The rubric side.
Do you guys not think it's possible for somebody to learn how to tattoo by themselves? With all the information online and all of this, everybody sharing information, do you not think it's possible for somebody to not take an apprenticeship and still be a dope tattoo artist and still learn from just repetition and stuff?
I think that's ultimately what
out of their house or whatever, wherever they're tattooing.
I think that's what led to my success, man. To be honest, I didn't stop. I knew that the tattoos I was doing were bad. I was proud of maybe a few of them, but like for the most part, I was like, yo, these are shitty tattoos.
Do you not think, like, I don't know, if we're promoting ourselves as self-taught tattoo artists, like, does it not inspire other people to be?
I think
I want to be like them, so I want to be self-taught.
I think so.
I wish I wasn't self-taught though.
But it's not a badge of honor.
It's
not a badge of honor, because that's why I'm saying, like to your point, Tito. I think it is a good thing for people to kind of see that and be like, I can do that and I can do it. But the thing is, it makes it easy. It makes it too tangible to the point where people are like, okay, I can do that. But then like they just start doing stuff, and then it creates like this ego and this other thing. But I feel like in me and Angel's case specifically, it's like we couldn't have that. We weren't allowed to have that ego because we weren't inside. We weren't able to do that. Right, we weren't able to kind of be like, oh well, yeah, I can see that, I want to do that, I think I can do it. But when you run into those problems and it's just you figuring that shit out, it humbles you really quickly. So you have to kind of like really.
So it's not until you're like you surround yourself with other tattoo artists.
Not even then, it's still a process of growing and learning and stuff like that. Like that, I don't know. I don't think that the self-taught way is the best way. I mean, you can do it for sure. It has happened. It's going to continue to happen. But I don't think that's a route that anybody should really take, because I think the people that do really well in that are outliers. I think you're literally wasting about 5 years of your career being self-taught.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Yeah.
So you would rather have more access to avenues of growth for yourself?
For sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. One-on-ones, maybe, sitting down with somebody like, oh, this is how you do this and that, whatever, and I feel like, I don't know, I'm impatient, so like I was like, I need to learn this, like what's next? Well, and you know what I'm saying? And I feel like maybe I didn't have that, and maybe my apprenticeship was a little bit slow, and I was like, oh, I'm not making money, I'm taking time off my job and this and that, so it's like, oh, that's why I quit. So
yeah, and I feel like that's a big part of that self-taught journey, and I feel like that shit sucks because you have to kind of go through that and then balance. That's you wasting time. You quit, you stop, you got to pick it back up. Now you got to go relearn shit that you already learned, but you forgot it. Yeah. Like, so you're losing so much time.
Ultimately, I just want to see good tattoos. I'm not proud of the tattoos I did back then. Somebody should have, if they weren't going to gatekeep me, then intervened and be like, hey, this is the way you should do that shit, Somebody should have saw, but nobody I was around was a good artist. Angel, you want to say something?
That person was me.
Oh. What else?
That was it.
Oh. I thought you were going to say you taught me everything you know. Yeah.
I was just like,
I did learn a lot being here at Black
I was just like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm pretty sure the gray wash system you use literally right now, I'm the one that taught you that.
Yeah, well, who put more whites in there? Hey, what are you using?
No, of course. Yeah, it's like somebody helps like create a foundation.
Right.
It's like you look, you're like, damn, how do you get that transition, or how did you get to look like that? And I'd be like, well, I do this, and then you take that principle and then you develop it as your own, and that's the beautiful part about people doing their own thing.
Okay, so maybe we should talk about gatekeeping becoming like in a transformative way, right? Because obviously the tattoo industry is ever evolving, and so are the concepts like gatekeeping, right? Maybe that doesn't come necessarily from, hey, you can't get to the other side of this gate because I'm the fucking chief of this fucking village. Fuck you. All the information is mine. Instead, maybe that looks like a collaborative effort of tattooers in the industry, sort of coming together and educating your peers. Maybe it's not as resistant to the growth of artists, right, that are shitty, right? Because, I mean, obviously, we've all been shitty artists at some point.
But then you have all these other tattoo artists who are doing seminars or are targeting people who are beginner artists. Like,
man, do not get me started on seminars.
No.
Oh, man.
Like beginner tattoo artists. If you want to learn how to tattoo.
That's some bullshit.
Hey, Rick,
this is a whole other podcast.
Does that not apply for the gatekeeping, though?
Yeah.
But
nobody's stopping them because
it's
if you're a beginner artist, you don't know.
Okay,
like,
so we should gatekeep those motherfuckers.
Like, how do you do that? Everybody in a whole has to like agree to.
Well, so what I was saying earlier is that like if you have these tattoo competitions that are going to give you your place in the industry, then we should rely on that. Like, hey, and then maybe it's not necessarily again like we're going to withhold the information, but maybe it's more of like this collaborative community effort. Where it's like, we see you need the growth in this area,
So how would you do that? Like, reach out to the artist, like, hey, bro,
rubricize.
Stop. Like, like...
I would. Man, honestly,
They're not
on the
gonna
green
care, though.
soapbox.
They're not gonna give a fuck.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Nobody.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like that's what
You know, the
well,
only people
too.
that can do something for
We're
real
in
would be
age
the
right
government.
now,
That it would, and then we would have to have, you know,
Well, the government's been doing some shit, bro.
they're not doing shit.
Bro. They're fucking up the economy, making it slow out here for tattooers. That's what they're doing.
Yeah,
Man, get your shit together. We're trying to tattoo out here.
Get your poop in the group.
Get that poop in the group. Well, I think that, you know, gatekeeping in a modern tattoo age is a little different. Obviously, we can't withhold information because it's all out there on the internet.
I think it's depending on what group of people you're talking to. You know what I'm saying? I think gatekeeping is very different for different groups of people.
Well, yeah, and I think that people who are, like Tito mentioned, taking advantage of a market in the industry should be the ones that are gatekept, right? We should take away the opportunity for tattoo artists to do seminars. Didn't that happen recently with somebody relatively new in the industry, Tattoo Baby or something like that, where they were going to do a seminar, and then all of a sudden they just didn't do the seminar?
I don't know if that's because somebody stopped them. I think maybe it just didn't work out.
yeah. Because
Hopefully-
not enough people
hopefully somebody
signed up
stopped
or
them,
whatever.
yes.
Or yeah,
But
maybe somebody did.
If that was the case, right? If somebody was like, "Yo, what the fuck are you doing teaching this
I
fucking
just think-
seminar? You shouldn't do that," and then they go in there and they intervene. They're like, "Hey, you should maybe reconsider doing this seminar. You're just a baby tattooer your goddamn self."
Right. I think when you look at it from a whole, right, it's like no system is perfect. So we have to take that for what it is. Like, no matter what industry, nobody's batting 1,000. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? You got
yeah.
doctors that aren't that great. You know what I'm saying? You
For
have
sure.
teachers that aren't that great. So no matter what happens, you're going to have tattooers that's not going to be that great. I
But
think
the thing is with other industries is that there's a lot of regulation. You know?
that's what I'm saying. With even more regulation, you still have people that aren't that great.
Yeah, I
So,
guess you're right. But
you
there's still a standard, a quality of regulation.
It don't matter. I don't think it personally matters. I think 'cause you have bad teachers out there. They go through all the same things that other teachers go through. You have all the doctors that go to the same classes. They do all
Okay,
the same things,
well,
and they're
like-
just not good.
If we could pull up some statistics, maybe the ratio of good doctor to bad doctor.
I mean, you're not gonna see
I think
that.
there's still going to be a lot more
You're not gonna
bad
see that.
tattoo
It's just like a
artists.
pizza place. It's like every pizza place is the best pizza place in the world.
That's a gimmick.
I know it's a gimmick, but I'm just saying that's the general idea. Like, no one's going to be like, I'm the number 3 pizza place. They're going to be like, I'm the number 1, right? So it's like everything is going to have a hierarchy to it, where it's like, oh, this is the thing, but there's going to be lesser people on that totem pole.
So if there's a hierarchy, is there always going to be gatekeeping?
Professional. I don't think, but that's what I'm saying. I think depending on who you talk to, like gatekeeping for me looks very specific.
Right.
Versus like gatekeeping for Crystal might be very specific. Like
Well, Crystal
her,
gatekeeps herself.
yeah, her gatekeeping is going to be very different from mine.
What
That
your
was going to
question?
be my question at the very beginning of this, was what are you classifying as gatekeeping
Well, I think
from your point of view, or
with-
just in general?
I think ultimately it's just withholding a certain element of the industry from somebody, whether that be information, access to a market, or circles that you surround yourself with, right? Like, if you're not a good tattoo artist, you're obviously not going to roll around in good tattoo circles. So, I mean, I think gatekeeping can be a number of things. I think it's interesting that you brought up gatekeeping to yourself, because I feel like that's a big thing too. You know?
Cause I see like the talks on Instagram and just talking to people, like different artists and stuff, on how they view what's going on and stuff like that. It's like it's very specific thing. It's kind of like you dealing with inequality. You know what I'm saying? It's like everybody's inequality is very different and very specific to who they are, and it's kind of hard to kind of narrow it down now. Because I feel like at one point when we were talking about gatekeeping, it was something very specific, and then different groups got that term and started using it a very specific way. Right?
So what should gatekeeping look like in the industry, if there should be?
I think
in your
gatekeeping should only be the standard of making the person that's trying to get in the industry work for it.
The rubric?
I don't think you can use a rubric on somebody that doesn't tattoo.
I guess that's
Right.
fair. Yeah.
But I feel like if you're trying to get into the industry, I feel like it should be opportunity to get into the industry, but you have to work for it. So like it's like the apprenticeship to the apprenticeship,
okay.
right? I think that'd be fair. I think that's a good form of gatekeeping. I think anything outside of that is a little bit too much. But I think you should just make it hard, so that way when people get in, they actually value it a lot more, right? And they're able to do what they need to do.
So how do you stop people from I guess how do you stop people from just getting that information online and doing whatever the fuck they
Well,
want to do?
it's kind of too late now.
Yeah,
Right. It's
everybody
already
as a
out
whole
there.
has it
So
just
then,
stopped.
would you say that maybe we could just, as tattoo artists, create a coalition that maybe goes out there and tells people not to tattoo bad?
I mean, you can do that, but it's not going to work
Why wouldn't it work?
because nobody's going to listen to you.
I think if a group of higher tier tattoo artists, I mean, maybe not in my career right now, but if in the beginning of my career, like, I don't know, it was us three and we went to Past Me and we were like, yo, you suck. You know,
the difference
take
in that-
this avenue instead of teaching yourself.
That literally happened.
But
to
what
me,
if all
and I
these
said I
artists that
didn't
you're
care.
talking about are they
Just
talk
didn't
about
care.
being self-taught
I guess.
artists?
You know, I didn't. They told me to stop
Hold,
tattooing.
hold on, wait. Tito was saying something real quick.
You know,
What did you say, Tito?
everybody. Wait, what was your question?
What was your question?
You were
What
the
was
one
your
asking the question.
You said what about the artists that think they're self-taught
Yeah,
or something?
like everybody who's like saying, "Oh, I'm a self-tattoo artist," right? And they're saying that in their teachings, and they're like, "Oh, listen to me, like, and this is what I have to give you." But I'm a self-tattoo artist, and if I look up to you, I'm like, man, maybe I can like teach myself too. You know what I mean? Do you think like you have to like cut that
Well, I think
artist
as
speech out
as
of your?
yeah, as tattoo artists, I think again we should, if we're gonna talk about our responsibilities to the younger people coming into the industry, then we should pave a path that is acceptable by all of us as an industry, right? So all of our peers, all of our, you know, everybody that we work with, our coworkers and everything, we have to maybe have some kind of way to say, hey, this is the right path, right? This is the way you should do it, and then maybe devise a way to redirect people who are maybe on this path of being a self-taught artist, because obviously, you know, that's not the best for an artist's career.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
considering Angel and TJ both spent years kind of shooting shots in the dark.
For sure.
You know, so I think if anything, if gatekeeping exists in a you know, it should, if it should exist, then it should be maybe in a way that's supposed to educate the younger tattooers into the
But
right
if that's
path.
the case, like, should you like? Do you think you should refrain from saying I'm a self-tattoo?
I don't think so. I think I think context matters, right? If I'm
Yeah.
telling you something I did, I can't leave that part out of it,
Yeah.
right? Because that's
Yeah.
a part of who I am as an artist. That's a part of my story.
But if you're
now, I don't have to advocate for it. Like, oh yeah, you should be doing. You don't have to go to these shops. Fuck them. Like, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But I can be like, okay, I was a self-taught artist, and for you to avoid that, these are things you can do, or you probably should look for an apprenticeship, right?
Yeah,
I have to
but
take that
I
responsibility.
feel like, but if I look up to you, right, I'm like, oh, if he's a self-tattoo artist,
If you-
then, like that's
if
what
you
I
look
want.
up
I
to
wanna
me
be
and you're not
self-taught
listening
too,
to
you
me,
know
that's
what I
two
mean?
different things. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm saying to you,
For sure.
I'm
Right.
self-taught, but you need to look for an apprenticeship, and you're like,
Yeah.
well, he's self-taught, he can do it. You completely ignore my message. You're like, that's the individual thing that you're fucking up,
Definitely.
right? Because you're not really receiving the message.
Yeah.
Let's
And that's what like.
let's make some concluding thoughts real quick on whether or not we should keep gatekeeping in the industry. I say maybe. I say we could definitely use it in certain areas. Maybe it doesn't look like the normal way that we're used to seeing gatekeeping. Maybe it looks like how Tito mentioned, directing or guiding the younger tattooers to make the right choices in whatever path they choose to pursue, you know?
I think evaluating somebody's passion is really important.
Ooh, that's spicy. What do you think? How do you want to elaborate real quick?
I think you can tell as a fellow artist how passionate somebody is about the craft in
How do you
itself.
evaluate passion? That's something we can include in the rubric.
I don't think you can evaluate it, but you can kind of like see it. You get a sense of it, because you can be passionate and still not be a great artist.
Yeah.
Well, I think
You know?
maybe to have some kind of implemented standard, we should find a way to quantify that.
I don't know if there's a way to quantify it necessarily, but I'm saying as a fellow artist, as somebody who is passionate themselves, you can gauge if someone else shares that. And it's a gut feeling. And I think that that's really important going forward with that kind of information, whether or not you give that to somebody, if you get that feeling that they are passionate about something and they're really willing to learn, they're asking the right questions, they're doing the work, they're trying to make an effort, they're not just doing it for the social media fame, or they're doing it for just the label of being, a tattoo artist.
So if we can evaluate passion, we can evaluate whether or not somebody belongs in the industry.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's kind of what I've come to.
Cool. Yeah, I
personally.
agree with that.
I see Angel's like eyes like rolling around, and like I think she's like thoughts building up. What do you got to say over there,
Shit, bro.
Yeah, I
Real
feel like
quick,
that's-
Angel, let's hear your
Got
concluding
real
thoughts on
quiet.
this, whether or not we should keep gatekeeping in the industry.
I think if you want to be a tattooer, you have to go into it for the right reason. I don't think passion is necessarily the right word, right? But I think if you feel like there's something that you can contribute to the industry, that you have something to offer, right? Because if you're coming into it and going like, oh, I just love tattooing and I love this and I love that, it doesn't, I mean, that has some weight, but it doesn't really mean that much. But if you're going into it into going like, oh, I just want to be famous, or I want to make this money, or I want to fill this hole because, whatever hole that you have in your ego where you felt like you weren't enough, that's what it is.
You talking about filling holes, bro?
Calm down.
Right.
Well, that's the truth.
A late night green soap.
If you get mad because you're like, oh, my post only got 1,000 likes and my last post got 2,200 likes, now you have an 1,100 like hole that you need to fill, and that's fucking stupid.
He got 1,100 holes.
I'm serious. I mean,
The Rick and Morty episode.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, when I first started tattooing, that was never a problem I ever had.
No, you're right. I definitely when you said that earlier, and I completely agree. It's like that mindset just wasn't a thing.
No, I hear you.
No,
I hear you.
just so you know, everybody here, I was tattooing before Instagram was even invented. Instagram was not even invented when I was tattooing.
It was around.
Tattoo
It was early.
conventions
No, it wasn't, bro.
Because it was
Or the
around when
real
I was
life
tattooing at the
Instagram.
crib.
Yeah, I was
It was the
tattooing
magazines.
I was
Magazines were the Instagrams of the tattoo industry.
Instagram,
back
I think,
then.
came around like 2000
like
and like
16.
no,
Yeah, I don't know.
it was like
Yeah.
2009. I
Really?
remember one of my
We'll
clients. I was
fact check
tattooing out
this
my
in a
crib.
separate episode.
We'll fact check.
Let's get Tito's concluding thoughts on whether or not he thinks we should keep gatekeeping in the industry.
I feel like gatekeep is out the door. There is no gatekeeping anymore. There's all the information you can look up online now.
And so it's a fruitless
Whatever
effort.
question, yeah. Unless everybody as a community, you have to hit up every tattoo artist out there, like all the big dogs. Everybody just stop sharing information,
Right.
and then then there's gatekeeping again. You know what I'm saying? But everything's online now, and it goes the same with like barbering. When I started cutting hair, there was like 1 or 2 videos on YouTube maybe of how to do a fade or something. You know what I'm saying? And then now there's everywhere you
Thousands.
look. Yeah, everywhere you look now, just hair cutting here, just how to do this fade, how to do this haircut, how to bow.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the same thing, not just in hair cutting or tattooing, but at some point you said like tattooing is in the beauty industry.
Right, for sure.
So there's a surge of tattooers, there's a surge of barbering because I know I've seen a surge of barbers in my career. There's a surge of nail technicians, you know what I'm saying?
Microblading.
All of that, you know what I'm saying? So if you're in the business of making people look beautiful, then there's a surge of it. And if you put information out there, people are going to seek that information, and gatekeeping is out the door.
So would you at least agree that maybe everybody should sort of seek an apprenticeship?
I agree people should seek an apprenticeship. That's the faster, better way to becoming a dope tattoo artist, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's not going to stop anybody from pursuing tattooing, even if it's shitty tattoos. You know what I mean? people are still gonna do it out their bathroom, out their kitchen, whatever.
On the toilet.
Damn, bro.
That's crazy.
That's
Low-key,
wild.
that's where I
man.
took my pictures.
On the
Was the
bathroom, you had them stand on the
bathroom?
toilet or
You're
what?
crazy for that.
Bro, the lighting was
Did you wipe
legit.
them with the toilet paper too? not
Drew
the
is
tattoo.
convenient as hell.
No wipes.
No gloves.
One ply toilet paper.
Yeah, no, the lighting in the bathroom was legit. It was good. It was good.
Well, I mean, if people, do choose to pursue the apprenticeship route, another question I might have is, how long should an apprenticeship take?
Oh,
If that is a question, like, should it not be like?
I thought we were done. Or is this the next segment?
You're ruining it, yeah.
Oh.
you're ruining it. Soil that.
I ruined your nut. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I got 2 of them.